Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Johns Hopkins School of Education, Master of Science in Education, Digital Age Learning, and Educational Technology, also known as DALET, virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also presenting today, we have Professor and Program Lead, Dr. Jim Diamond. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We'll be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take this time to make sure your mic is on mute and video is off. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the chat box and we will read your question and answer your questions. I would like to share the agenda for today's virtual webinar. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Diamond will go over information on the DALET program. And lastly, we'll wrap it up with admissions requirements, go over financial aid, and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909, and then we became our own school in 2007. We're proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. For school enrollment, we have approximately 1,741 students. We offer 25 graduate programs, and that includes our doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. We also have a network of over 24,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Jim Diamond is the faculty lead for the DALET program. He has his BA and a master's from Boston University and a PhD from New York University. He is a researcher in the field of digital media and learning, focused on the use of educational games to enrich K-12 learning and teaching for students and teachers. Dr. Diamond's experience also includes educational research, design, and evaluation. And his areas of interest include K-12 history, social studies, and civics education, STEM education, computational thinking, and disciplinary literacy. And lastly, Dr. Diamond's research has been funded by the National Science Foundation, the MacArthur's Foundation, hashtag Digital Media and Learning Initiative, the Gates Foundation, and the Robin Hood Learning and Technology Fund. At this time, I will hand the floor over to Dr. Diamond. Welcome, Dr. Diamond.
Thank you very much, Sion, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to spend some time with you this afternoon. My program, the Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology program in the Hopkins School of Education. I'm going to spend a few minutes going through a slide deck that gives you a broad overview of our program, and then we'll probably have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. And before I get started, I'll just say that I'm always very excited to be part of these webinars, and that might surprise you, or it sometimes continues to surprise me, given them that I've been doing them for years. But I'm always excited to know that there are educators, designers, working professionals in many different fields and industries who are interested enough and excited enough about this broad field of educational technology to express an interest in something as important and something as consequential as a graduate education. So I'm always very excited to get to spend some time being in communication with people who are interested in my field. I will say that I think this is an especially exciting and challenging, as you likely know, to working in the field of educational technology, and it's very broad. It touches K-12 education, it touches higher education, it touches corporate training, it touches work at the level of local, state, and the federal government, for that matter. It encompasses jobs as diverse as classroom teacher, as instructional designer, as media producer, as game designer, as curriculum developer, and the list goes on, as human resources training professional. All of these jobs increasingly involve the use, the design, the implementation, the evaluation of digital technologies as part of an ongoing global digital transformation, right? All sectors and industries continue to integrate the use of digital tools. Chief among them is the education space. As I noted, K-12, higher ed, informal learning spaces. And the educational technology industry is growing rapidly and projected to continue to grow rapidly through the end of the decade, at least. And that growth is not only in the United States, in North America, it is projected to be worldwide. And with the growth in that industry comes a growing demand for jobs, some of which I've already referenced, but also a growing demand in the space in which my program has been most heavily involved over the years, which is in K-12 education. So digital transformation continues to affect K-12. We are all living through it right now. It became even clearer due to the pandemic. And what we've seen and what we've witnessed are the innovations, the new types of learning that can occur through the use and integration of digital technologies. We've also seen the continuation of profound inequities in who has access to digital technologies, in who teaches well with digital technologies, in who designs digital technologies effectively. This last part is really what a graduate program in education technology should be addressing, right? And certainly mine is that when you come to a program like this, you will deepen your knowledge of the learning sciences, meaning that you will deepen your understanding of how fields such as cognitive psychology, such as developmental psychology, such as anthropology, how the research in those fields informs our understanding of design, implementation, and evaluation of tools. You will have multiple opportunities throughout your time in a program like this to apply that learning that you do through the development of technology-supported curricula. You'll have opportunities to create design documents for perhaps your own ideas for a new or modification to some sort of existing educational technology. Have opportunities to evaluate, to think and to plan systematically for determining how effective your technology-supported interventions are, to use the data that you collect to make changes, whether you're a classroom educator or whether you are a designer or developer. You will walk away from a program like this with a much stronger skill set in collecting data, evaluating it, and making decisions about how to modify or stay the course with your tools. So that's a very, very broad overview, and I'll go over the deck. And again, all of that is to say, I think it's an especially exciting time for you to be thinking about graduate work in this field. I applaud your decision, and I'm happy to be a part of your process. Okay, Sian, if we can start to move through the deck. Okay, so the DALET program is a 100% online program. It offers a Master's of Science in Education degree, so that's a 36 credit, 12 course master's degree. We also have a graduate certificate, as you can see, in Leadership Technology Integration, which is a 15 credit or 5 course graduate certificate. Most of our students complete the program in 1 year in the case of certificate students, in 2 to 2.5 years in the case of degree students, and we offer courses spring, summer, and fall, and we admit students spring, summer, and fall. Next slide, please. So the DALET program, the majority of our students at any given time, between 60 and 70% of them are K-12 educators, usually K-12 classroom teachers, relatively early career, on average about 5 years in the classroom, pursuing their first graduate degree. But K-12 teachers are not our only students, right? As you can see, we also draw professionals from a very broad, very broad field, right? So we bring in instructional technologists, higher ed faculty and higher ed administrators, people who are leading startups or thinking about leading startups, people who are part of technology teams in industry, consultants, course developers, and others. This is a sample of the students that we typically have in the DALET program. So the majority are usually in the K-12 space in the classroom, with some percentage of them pursuing a graduate degree with the idea of moving out of the classroom, not necessarily leaving K-12 education altogether, but perhaps thinking about technology coordinator positions, perhaps thinking about technology leadership positions at the level of a district or even a state. And then the other remaining students are in this very broad adult education space. Okay, next slide, please. So the DALET program, it fluctuates a bit. Our current active student body is a little lower than this. We're at about 100 active graduate students right now between the master's degree program and the graduate certificate. The next holds true and has held true for many years. We are typically about 2/3 of our students identify as female, a third of our students identify as male. As I noted, close to 3/4 are typically classroom teachers. Students are typically in their mid-30s, early to mid-career. We do have some percentage of career changers. And incidentally, I should say, not just in the K-12 space, but in other spaces as well. We currently have some physicians working in the program who are not necessarily thinking about leaving medicine, but who are thinking about becoming medical educators, for example. And we've had with lawyers as well in the past. We've had some lawyers come to the program who, while they continue to be practicing lawyers, they've also developed an interest in legal education and how they can use digital technologies to support education in their profession. So again, it's a program and it's a field that brings in lots of different people from lots of different spaces. Next slide, please. This is just a sample. It is an online program, and that typically means we have students all over the United States, in many countries around the world. The proportions are typically about 10% of our students are international students, with the other 90% in the United States, and the other 90% in the United States. Here you're just again getting a sample of where we've had where some of current students are and where students in the past have hailed from. Next slide, please. Okay, so as an online program, all course delivery, to no surprise, occurs online, and it occurs via a learning management system. So Johns Hopkins University has recently moved from its older learning management system, Blackboard, to the Canvas learning management system. You see a screenshot of that here on the right. And this is a typical example of what a course landing page will look like. So you can almost imagine a course landing page as a two-dimensional digital classroom in some ways, right? Where all of these links open up doors in a classroom to go to some different part of a course, right? Now, from a course, you wind up using many different tools for collaboration, tools for design, tools for development, and all of those are linked typically through the learning management system. All of your work for your courses goes on through these learning management systems. Now, there's an awful lot of collaboration that goes on in this program. Students do a lot of teamwork and group work. Some of that occurs through the learning management system. Some of that occurs through a platform like Microsoft Teams. Some of it occurs through WhatsApp and any other number of ways, as you can imagine at this point. You are most likely a working professional who has plenty of experience collaborating with your peers and perhaps developing with using digital tools. Courses are first asynchronous, meaning the assumption in this program is that people are in fact in many different time zones, and that's true. And it's very, very difficult in that case to hold synchronous courses. So in any given course, instructors will always have synchronous sessions, sometimes weekly, sometimes twice a month, sometimes a few times a semester. But the majority of your work will be done asynchronously, meaning via this learning management system on your own time. Now, the program is not a mastery learning model. And here's what I mean by that. The beginning of the semester opens up, the learning management system opens up, and you progress through the course as sessions open up. So you don't have access to an entire course at the beginning of the semester and move through the entire course at your own pace. You are moving at your own pace in some ways, except again, that's offset by an awful lot of project work where you're collaborating with others, but you're always working within a particular session. Sessions are usually 2 weeks, and they're self-contained units that involve activities, readings, discussions, and the like, and you move from session to session. When there are synchronous sessions, they usually happen on a tool like Zoom. Those sessions are usually recorded and transcribed and made accessible to students who were not able to attend. Whenever professors do hold synchronous sessions, they will strongly encourage you to attend. There is great value to engaging in live dialogue with your peers and with your professor. But again, there is a recognition that in a program like this, it is not possible to have everybody in one place at one time. I've already touched on the collaboration, of which there is a good amount in this program. A good rule of thumb is about half of your assignments, half of your activities over the course of the program will be done on your own in the form of papers, in the form of digitally supported interventions that you're developing. And the other half you are doing as a member of a team. And those teams will change from course to course. But there's a strong expectation that you are able to collaborate effectively with others in going through your assignments. And then certainly discussion is a major component of graduate education. So you are doing a significant amount of reading. You are doing a significant amount of viewing. You are learning a great deal of knowledge, and you are applying that knowledge. And one way in which you are doing that is through discussion with your peers and your professors. And that happens in different formats. It happens traditional discussion boards. It happens with tools like Flipgrid, for example, where you are video recording yourself. It can happen via Twitter chat. It can happen in any number of ways, but discussion is an integral part of your graduate education here. Okay, next slide, please. This is a sample of some course titles. I'm not going to read them. You can see them. I think these titles give you a flavor for the program. They give you a fair representation of some of the content that you expect to see covered in the program. You have access to course titles and course descriptions on the program's website from the education homepage. And you can also request a copy of the student handbook which also includes course descriptions. And typically they are about as current as what's on the website as well. So you can look on the website or request access to the student handbook to see all of the course offerings and when they are typically offered. Okay, next slide, please. So this is an example of an academic program. So this is a student who is, this is a hypothetical student who's taking courses a term and therefore likely to finish in 2 years. This is a pretty common way in which our students move through, particularly the master's degree students. Most are taking 2 courses a term. In some circumstances, we have students taking 3 courses a term. Very, very rarely do we have students taking 4, and certainly not if they are working full time. Almost all of our students are working professionals. And so taking 2 courses on top of your work is a pretty significant course load, right? So we typically tell students on the low end, on the very low end, they should expect to spend at least 10 hours, more likely between 12 and 15 hours a week on a course, right? So that's on top of whatever your job is during the week. You're spending a significant amount of time in each, doing your reads, engaging in your discussion, working with your group mates, producing whatever product, whatever artifact it is that's needed for an assignment. So that's a good amount of work, and therefore you do have the vast majority of our students going through part-time. The last thing I'll say about this example program is that you can see in the summer 2024 here, advanced seminar and advanced applications together, those constitute the program's capstone experience. So you come to the end of your master's degree program here and you engage in an independent study, a culminating project, fairly typical of a master's degree program, which you're being asked to apply many of the competencies that you've developed while taking your courses into a master's degree project. Concurrently, you are developing a digital portfolio. So all of our students leave the program with a portfolio that curates the various projects that we worked on over the past 2 years. And we have students who go on to use these portfolios when they are looking for positions or when they are perhaps looking to be promoted, which is often why people will pursue professional graduate degrees. Digital portfolios can be very helpful tools as you go about doing that. Okay, next slide. So this is our faculty. We have 3 full-time faculty members, myself, Dr. Chris Devers, Dr. Josh Shusky, and we have about 10, sometimes 12 instructors. The remarkable thing about our faculty is the diversity of fields that are represented. We have instructional designers, we have K-12 teachers, we have principals and assistant principals of schools, we have higher ed faculty who are in other institutions, we have people who work for the US federal government, we have people who are working as learning experience designers in other divisions of Johns Hopkins University. And the reason that that's so important in my experience is that a big reason that you're pursuing a graduate degree, in addition to the learning that you're doing, is you're also looking to build out your networks, right? And instructors, faculty in any given program, in addition to your peers, are a very, very important way for you to do that. So when you have a diverse faculty body, people who come from many different places and industries, you have opportunities to take advantage of that and to be in communication with your instructors and to ask them to put you in touch with their colleagues so that you can learn more about different fields. so you can explore jobs in different fields. And so I think that this, the group of instructors we have here is a very, very, very useful resource in that way, obviously beyond the fact that they, beyond their deep expertise and professional experience in the areas in which they are teaching you. Okay, next slide, please. I've already mentioned some of the careers, some of the jobs. Ed tech really is a very, very broad field. It happens that historically most of our students have been in the K-12 space, and that's held steady for a long time. The representation in the adult education space has also been growing over time, and that is reflected in changes in our faculty, that is reflected in changes in our curriculum as we continue to focus not only on pedagogies, right, not only on methods for using technologies effectively, but also increasing our focus on design, right, frameworks and tools for actually thinking how to create these technology supported interventions, and sometimes getting as far as something like a working prototype. So here you can see we have people who are K-12 educators, but we also, again, have instructional designers, learning experience designers, and media producers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is a bit of a recap. The program is fully online, which is a remarkable advantage for work professionals, particularly at a research institution like Johns Hopkins University. It is truly applicable. A certificate in this program is applicable in many, many areas. And that is true when you talk with our alumni who wind up going many different places if they haven't stayed where they were originally. As I noted, we really do have a faculty with very significant real-world experience in a range of areas, and that is a tremendous benefit for graduate students. And finally, we do maintain a very strong focus on K-12 education in this space. K-12 educators are our core constituency. As a program, as a faculty, we are deeply committed to the K-12 education space. We are deeply committed to helping teachers to advance in their careers by effectively integrating, effectively developing these kinds of pedagogies and these kinds of tools. Okay, next slide, please.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. So now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. Applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on our school's website. The application fee is $80. You'll need official transcripts from all institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. Next, a 500-word essay must be uploaded. Please visit our website on the admissions webpage to learn more about the essay portion of the application. You'll need a current resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation. We do prefer at least one of your references to be an academic reference from a former instructor or faculty. However, if you're unable to have one academic letter of recommendation, we will accept 2 professional letters of recommendation. And lastly, the GRE is not required for this program. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score, and if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. And additional information can be found on our school's website. The tuition for the 2022-2023 academic school year is $972 for the online course plus a $20 per credit technology fee. Please note that this excludes textbook, course materials, graduation fee, and registration fee. Additional fees apply and are charged separately from tuition. And we encourage you to view our tuition and fees page on our website for the most up-to-date information about tuition and fees. And if you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. We do offer a very limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships, each year. SOE's endowed scholarship awards range on average from $800 to $3,000 per semester, and it's applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. Please keep in mind to apply for the SOE Endowed Scholarship, students must complete the FAFSA form. To learn if you qualify for the Endowed Scholarship or have any questions regards to financial aid, please visit our school's website. All right, so thank you for attending the DALET virtual webinar. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions. All right, so Dr. Diamond, looks like we have a program-related question from Brandon. And Brandon, the question is, I'm interested in hearing more about DALET students using their current work environment as a testing ground for ideas and projects as part of the program. Do students have the opportunity to connect their current professional work with their classwork as part of the program?
So short answer is yes. It's an excellent question. Thank you, Brendan. Many of our students, certainly K-12 teachers, for example, in their courses will be asked to engage in lesson planning and even unit planning, in which they are integrating the use of specific tools, given their grade range, given subject area, given the need to differentiate instruction. And they often will do that during the course of the semester. So students will go ahead and create lesson plans as assignments and then put them into practice. Now, for all courses, you are not required to do that, right? Because not all students will have that opportunity. And that's also true of something like the independent study at the end of the program. Sometimes students do have opportunities to put into practice what they're doing in the course, but not all the time. But many of our students do, in fact, make clear and regular connections between their professional context and what they're doing in the classroom. So certainly I've had any number of K-12 teachers, instructional designers, HR training people take a course that I teach, gaming and simulations, and who have in fact created simple educational card or board games for their professional context and have had opportunities to use them while the course is going on, perhaps sometimes the following semester, and I hear back. So short answer is yes, there are students do it regularly, and it is advantageous when they can do so. Certainly from an experiential learning perspective, it deepens the learning.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. Another question from, this one's from David. Can you provide an example of a project, and do any projects include working directly with a school or school district?
So yes, I some of the examples that I just gave, but here are some others. For example, one of our courses, we have a course in data-driven decision making. And as part of that course, students have to create data collection and interpretation and action plans. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes students do have opportunities to actually put those plans into action in their schools. I know that at least one, perhaps two of my advisees over the past year or two have worked with their school administrator, so either their principals or their APs, to come up with data, or in the case of another course, the research and evaluation course, to come up with an evaluation plan and actually put it into action and collect data on it, and be able to make recommendations based on the findings from the evaluation. So those are a few examples in the K-12 space, and as I mentioned in the gaming course as well, I've seen any number of examples that come up for professionals who are in HR training and instructional design jobs. Hopefully that answered your question, David.
All right, so while we wait for additional questions, Dr. Diamond, I know this is a question I get a lot. We have students who have been, out of school for a while, and this is a completely online program. Any tips or advice for those students who are going to be, taking online courses? What does collaborative learning look like? Yeah, any advice for students interested in taking this online program? That'd be great.
Sure. So what we find is that to the extent that you are what we might think of as a self-regulated learner, to the extent that you're able to put those skills into practice, you will have I would say, a calmer go of it. So let me explain what I mean by that. This is a graduate program. It requires a lot of your time. It requires a lot of intellectual effort. And the way to make the most of that time and the most of that effort is to organize your activity, is to schedule as much as you can, as far in advance as you can, including your personal life, your professional life, and your academic life. Right? The more that you can be clear about your schedule from a week to week, month to month basis, the more that you can communicate that clear schedule with your peers with whom you are working, the better off you are going to be in terms of managing your workload, in terms of being able to distribute a workload among a team of people, right? Have a team of people who are communicating clearly, who are very clear about when they're available and they're not, who are very clear about deadlines and expectations, who are far more likely to get your piece of the work done and for everybody to get their piece of the work done and do it on time and do it well. Where we tend to find students who struggle are those who have a harder time, where time management is more difficult. Right? So one difference, obviously, between online education and face-to-face education is face-to-face education, you have a place to be, typically every week, for some number of hours. Your absence is noted. Well, your absence is noted in online education as well, but it's different. You also should have a place to be, but it's less rigid in terms of the expectations for when you're going to be there. It's an asynchronous program. So again, the better you are about scheduling your time out, and so for example, saying from X hour to Y hour on these days, you are going to set aside time for your coursework in course A and do the same for your coursework in course B. And you make that clear to your class, to your classmates when needed. You make it clear to yourself and you hold yourself accountable to that schedule. The more you communicate with your instructors, so when you find yourself with questions, you find yourself struggling, you find yourself perhaps needing some more time, the more you communicate, the more clearly you communicate, the better off you're going to be. So I don't think anything that I just described is necessarily anything new to any of you, but it can certainly be different from what an undergraduate experience was like, for example, where you're really responsible, you're far more responsible for the work that you're doing. And so again, the more you can manage your time. The more you can be realistic about your time and your expectations, the better off you are going to be. And you're not alone, right? So online education is also an interesting space in that some students can feel a sense of isolation sometimes because you're not in a room with other people. You are in a digital space with other people, but it's not the same thing. But you can communicate with people, right? We do this all the time now. We do it digitally, we do it virtually, and you can do the same in online education. And so it's important to remember that you are not alone, that you have access to instructors, that you have access to your academic advisor, that you have access to the staff at the School of Education when you need help. And when you find yourself needing help, the most important thing to do is to communicate that and to communicate it clearly. And when you can do those things, you really are in a much better position to succeed here. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dr. Diamond.
Let's see, spring or summer 2023. Are we accepting that early yet, Sion?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Oh, sorry, I was looking at this question.
I see. Mhm.
Oh, spring 2023 we are, right?
Oh, it's a program accepting. Okay, applications for a spring or summer 2023 start.
Spring, I believe we are, right?
I'm sorry, what was that again? I could not hear you. I might have
No,
volume
I'm
issue.
sorry, I cut out. I was saying, I think spring 2023, we are accepting applications.
Oh, yes, we are. Yes, we are definitely accepting applications for the spring 2023 start term.
Okay.
Okay, all right, looks like, okay. It looks like there are no more questions here on this slide. I want to share some very important contact information. Any admissions related questions, please reach out to Mr. James McCarty. He's actually new on our admissions team, and he's very excited to work with you and guide you through the admissions process for the DALET program. So here is his email address and phone number. Also, any program related questions, please feel free to reach out to Lisa McNeil, Senior Academic Program Coordinator. Here's her email. And I know, Dr. Diamond, you usually share your email address in the chat box as well, too. So if you
That's
don't
right.
mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you again, as always, for a wonderful presentation, Dr. Diamond. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.